Hello students, this is Professor Somonshi and welcome to our channel Adsu Polytechnic. So students, in today's video, we are going to see what is meant by multiple constructors in a class. So let's start the session. So students, what is meant by multiple constructors in a class? जर एखाद्या क्लासमध्ये एकापेक्षा जास्त कन्स्ट्रक्टर डिक्लेअर किंवा डिफाइन केले गेले असतील तर त्याला आपण म्हणतो मल्टिपल कन्स्ट्रक्टर्स इन अ क्लास. In the previous session, we have already seen what are the types of constructor. So there are three types of constructor. First is default constructor, second is parameterized constructor, and third is nothing but the copy constructor. So what is multiple constructors? If in the same class, if I declare two or more constructor. So here we are going to take one example where we are going to take three constructor. The first one is default constructor, the second is parameterized constructor, and third is nothing but the copy constructor. So students, first here I have declared two header files, iostream.h and conio.h. Then inside class integer, I have taken one class integer where I have taken two variables, integer m, n. Now in the public section, I have created one function whose name is same as that of class. Here I have created function integer whose name is same as that of class. So that's why this is nothing but a constructor. Now this integer constructor is not accepting the parameter. So we have seen the constructor which does not accept parameter is called as default constructor. That means here we have created one constructor and which is nothing but default constructor. And there we have given two values. For m, we have initialized with the 0, and for n, we have initialized with the 0. So whenever the object will be created, the value for m and n will be 0 if the default constructor is getting invoked. Now, the second constructor we have created is nothing but a parameterized constructor. So what is parameterized constructor? The constructor which accepts one or more parameters. So this integer constructor is accepting two parameters. The first is integer a and the second is integer b. That's why this is a parameterized constructor. So we have seen how to write the body. So m is equal to a, means the whatever the value which is provided as a parameter will be given to variable n, and whatever the value which is provided as parameter 2 will be given to variable n. Now in the third section we have created another constructor which is nothing but a copy constructor. So we know the copy constructor accept the reference of its own object. So here integer is a constructor. This integer is nothing but the class name, and refers to the reference. So it is accepting reference to its own class. That's why it is a copy constructor. So here I have written the body m is equal to I dot m and n is equal to I dot n. So whatever the object will be passed to this constructor, that object will be copied into the another object. So n is equal to I dot n. Then I have created one function display which is used to display the value of m and n. So whatever the value of m, that will be displayed, and whatever the value of n, that will also be displayed. Now I am going to create the three objects. So inside void main, first I have created this object integer i1. So this integer i1, that means here I am invoking the first constructor. The first constructor means here I have created object i1 and I have not passed any of the parameter. That means here I am invoking the first, that is default constructor. So when I create this object, this integer constructor, why this constructor is getting invoked? Because I have not given the parameter. That's why this default constructor is getting invoked. And the value for integer i1 will be for m is equal to 0 and for n is equal to 0. Means for both the variables m and n, the value of m and n will be 0 for object i1. Now in the second statement, here I am invoking the second constructor, and which is the second constructor? The second constructor is nothing but the parameterized constructor. Why? Because it accepts the parameter. So in order to invoke that second constructor, we need to give the parameters. So here I have created second object integer i2, and in the bracket I have provided two parameters. The first is 10 and second is 20. So this 10 parameter will be supplied to variable A or parameter A, and the 20 will be provided to variable or parameter B. Now this 10 will be copied inside variable M and 20 will be copied inside variable N. That means for the second object, for the I2 object, the value of M will be 10 and the value of N will be 20. So here I have given the value of A to M and value of B to N. That means here we are getting M is equal to 10 and N is equal to 20. Now in this statement here, I am invoking the third constructor. Invoking third constructor. So which is the third constructor? The third constructor is nothing but the copy constructor. So here I am going to copy the object I into I3. So that's why here I have passed the I2 object as a parameter. That means that here I am passing I2 object. So all the contents of I2, that is 10 and 20. So 10 value of I2 will be copied to M variable, I3 object, and the 20 value of N variable of object I2 will be copied inside the N variable of object I3. That means I3 object is also getting initialized with two values, that is 10 and 20. That means here I have copied the value of I2 object inside the I3 object. And now I am going to display the values. So first I have called I1.display. So whenever this display function will be called, the value of M will be displayed as 0 and the value of N will be displayed as 0. Why? Because object I belongs to default constructor, and if in default constructor value of M is 0 and N is 0. Then I2.display. So whenever I call display function by using object 2, the value of M and N will be displayed, but the value of M will be 10 and the value of N will be 20. And in the third statement or the next statement, I have called the display function by using I3 object. So here that it will display the value of M and N for the third object, that is I3 object. And we have copied the I3 object from I2 object. The value of I2 object were 10 and 20. So that's why the value of I3 object will also be 10 and 20. And here it will display Cout M is M and N is N. That means M is 10 and the value of N is displayed as N is 20. So here the output will be, first it will show M is 0, N is 0. In the second section, it will show M is 10, N is 20. And in the third section, it will show M is equal to 10 and N is equal to 20. So students, that means that here in only one class, in this class integer, this class is starting here and closing here. So inside this class, I am creating the three constructor, constructor 1, constructor 2 and constructor 3. So if in one class, here we have already seen, when more than one constructor function is defined inside the same class, then we call this constructor as constructor overloading, or we call this functionality as multiple constructors in a class. So students, in this way we have seen what is meant by multiple constructors. So students, thank you. Thanks for watching.